How's it, guys? This is Dayvy FP and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video we're going to be talking about the Gameweek 11 preview. Talking points covered in this video include some new situations that have come up in the news recently and what it means for our FPL teams. They're going to turn our attention to the main talking point of the video, which is Diego Jota essential and should you be bringing him in? Then we're going to turn our attention to some budget forwards. If you like me, a Raul Jimenez owner, unfortunately with that head injury, looks like he's going to be out for a prolonged amount of time. So who can we bring in to replace him? Or maybe you're just looking at some budget forwards anyway. And maybe I'll highlight a player that you haven't been thinking about and you might be transferring them in. And then finally, we're going to wrap it up with the captaincy. A lot of good captaincy options this week. Who should you be picking and who should hopefully do well? So that's something you're interested in. Sit back, relax, and let's get into it. So a new season calls for a new sponsor, but here on the Dayvy FPL channel, we like our old. So I've brought back the old sponsor, OneFootball, but with a completely new revamped app. Yes, OneFootball has gone over a complete marketing revamp, new logo, new everything. I've checked it out, looks really good. They kind of took the old app, but just made it better. So I'm really appreciative of that. If you want to go check them out, link down in the description below to go download the app. If you don't know who they are, they're the biggest app on iOS and Android. So go check them out. I personally use them, so I can recommend them from a personal level. So as we usually do, a reminder here about the Champions League. Now the fixtures midweek are happening thick and fast. The Champions League games are kind of coming to a conclusion in the group stages, so teams are looking to solidify their place in those playoff spots. A team that I can kind of think of is Liverpool. They play tonight Ajax at home, which should be quite a good game if you want to go watch it. But the thing is, Liverpool have to win that game. They don't necessarily have to win, but if they do win it, I think it pretty much guarantees them a spot in the playoffs. So they definitely will be playing their mainstream side. So keep your eyes on the Salah, Mane's, Firmino's, and the newly talked about Diego Jota as well. Other teams just monitor the injury situation there, but that's just a reminder. Let's get on to the watch list. So the watch list has been updated this week. We have some new entries, starting off with Jack Grealish, who's been a main occurrence throughout our watch list over these past couple game week previews. Had a really good game week 10 there with a goal and some bonus points. Unfortunately with me, the situation with my FPL team, you could have the situation as well, is I currently have Steer on the bench and I already own Martinez and Watkins. That means that I have 3 Aston Villa players, and unfortunately I can't squeeze Jack Grealish in unless I take out a player like Watkins, or maybe even do a minus for it to take out Steer, which is going to be quite hectic. But currently Jack Grealish will probably remain on my watch list until I wildcard. Remember, we still do have that first wildcard, and as soon as we wildcard, we definitely will be bringing him in. Has played basically every single minute, currently 7.7 at some massive amount of price rises, but with those stats, 5 goals and 6 assists, you can see why he's risen in price so much. The 2 new entries we have, not going to talk about Diego Jota too much because you are kind of focusing on him a lot. I'll just say that he scored 5 goals and 0 assists, and he's currently having a lot of price rises. I think he's going to price rise tonight. So if you can only afford him at the current price, maybe watch out for that. And with those minutes, he's played 482, which is not every single minute, but just remember at the start of the season, wasn't really playing that well. I wasn't really starting, but as soon as he started getting on form, he's been in that Liverpool lineup quite consistently. Then finally, to wrap the watch list, we have Callum Wilson. We'll be talking about that Newcastle situation in a little bit, but right in front of us, we have a player that's 6.5, got 7 goals, 3 assists, basically played every single minute and looks to be on some good form. Now, Newcastle aren't playing the best football in the world, but Callum Wilson still seems to be doing quite well, and with nice upcoming fixtures, I think the next 4 are quite good. Definitely a consideration, and we'll talk about him especially in that budget forward watch list. So getting on to the new talking point that's kind of come up, it's a new talking point about Newcastle, but if you haven't been paying attention to the news, Newcastle had to cancel their training session, I believe, yesterday, and they didn't train today as well because there's been a little bit of an outbreak of the virus at the Newcastle training ground. A couple of players have tested positive, including members of staff, and there's a kind of fear that the game this weekend on Friday against Aston Villa might be postponed. Now, no one really knows what's kind of happening. Apparently in the rules it says that if you miss a game, you simply just forfeit that game 3-0. That's going to be quite interesting to see what FPL does if it is a 3-0 victory, who they give those FPL points to. But if it is a postponement, we could be looking at another double game week for Aston Villa. If it is postponed, that's going to be quite an annoyance, because if you have brought in a player like Callum Wilson, or you own 3 Aston Villa players, you're probably not going to be able to field 11 players, but that situation is only going to be kind of resolved a little bit later on. The one thing that I think is going to be a certainty is that Steve Bruce is 100% not going to tell us who's going to be out of that game. I think that he's going to see it as a disadvantage to their own team that they have these first team players missing, and it's going to be an asset to the opponents if he does say who's out. So imagine Callum Wilson actually has tested positive, but he doesn't tell us he is, and then before the game we just look at the lineup and he's not suddenly starting. I think there's going to be a couple of angry FPL managers there. So what I would kind of recommend you do is keep your transfer for as late as possible if you can. Obviously price rises could force your hand a little bit, but keep that transfer for as late as possible, as hopefully towards the end of the week we all know if that Newcastle game is going to go ahead, and we might get news about certain players missing or being fit to play. So the main talking point of this video is going to be Diogo Jota. Is he essential? I'm going to kind of talk about a little bit of the scenarios that go with this question. You kind of link it with if you already own Salah and Mane, if you want to double up on that Liverpool attack, or maybe vary your attack a little bit. Maybe you don't want to go for Salah and Mane, now you want to go for Salah and Jota. I think that's a great situation to be in because you're simply complementing each other. I don't think it's as easy or as straightforward if you're looking at him as a replacement for Salah or Mane. So a lot of people are saying, do we even need Mane/Salah if Diogo Jota is performing so well and he's so much cheaper? So I think if your budget is really stretched, then you could consider that as a yes question, but I definitely think that I still would be siding with Salah, especially for those captaincy decisions. So what I've done here is I've compared Diogo Jota to Salah. I did it over the last 5 game weeks because I didn't think it was fair to include the first couple game weeks when Diogo Jota wasn't really playing. But as you can see on screen here, I've got Diogo Jota in blue and Mo Salah in red. So stats are pretty similar. However, Mo Salah is definitely the better option. Only shots on target, Diogo Jota beats him, which is actually quite fascinating. So he's actually beating him on shots on target, but the big chances still on Diogo Jota's side, which is a little bit one of those interesting comparisons to do. But I still think that Diogo Jota is a great option to go for, and if you don't own a Liverpool option and you really need a cheaper option to go for, I definitely would consider him. I'm kind of in the same boat. I currently have a lot of Man City options, Sterling and De Bruyne, and I don't really know if I want to take them out before that West Bromwich Albion fixture, but I still want an option from Liverpool when they go and face Fulham, because I think they're going to be the standout captaincy options that week. So I'm considering currently going for Diogo Jota and then captaining him and going without Mo Salah or Sadio Mane, which is quite crazy. I think the best scenario to do is have one of Mane or Salah and then just complement them with Diogo Jota, but I don't think that we can replace Diogo Jota and Salah too much, so don't complain if you bring in Jota and Salah still performs better than him. The next comparison we're going to go over, I thought was quite interesting as well, is if we compared Salah, we might as well compare Mane as well, because he's also a great option from that Liverpool attack. So Diogo Jota to Mane is a lot more of a similar comparison here, but Salah definitely does always have the better stats than Mane. That's just something that we've discovered over the previous FPL seasons, that Salah gets a lot of shots on target, a lot of shots in the box, whereas Mane seems to get the big chances and actually still keeps on form with Salah. But you can see here, Diogo Jota and Mane are quite similar. The big chances are still on Sadio Mane's side, but if you factor in that budget that you're saving, I still think that Diogo Jota could do a job over Mane in the long run. So the next talking point that we're going to be going over is budget forwards. I've already mentioned Raul Jimenez. I am currently an owner. Unfortunately, due to that injury, we're going to have to replace him, and I am leaning towards the whole downgrading and going for 3 budget forwards so that I can simply upgrade my midfield, bring in Diogo Jota if I need him, or maybe upgrade another department like my defense. So what I've done here is I've sorted the forwards under 7.0 million, and then I've sorted them by XG. So XG, some people, it's a little bit of a hit or miss stat. Some people love it, some people hate it. I'm just going here because I think it gives us a good indication when we compare the XG to the goals scored and whether we see that the player is either overperforming or underperforming. Now, I want to mention here that one of the players that is currently overperforming their stats is Che Adams. He's actually the best striker to go for under 7 million if you're looking at the previous 5 game weeks, but he is overperforming his XG. So what I've done here is I've gone for the top 6. Now, there's only going to be a couple that I talk about because there are some redundant ones. I'm not going to be talking about McBurney, Mapai, or Wood. I'm going to be focusing on Bamford, Watkins, and Wilson. So if you look here at the stats, Bamford simply destroys every other forward. He even rivals some of the more expensive forwards in terms of stats, and that you can see on the right-hand side. So what I did on the right-hand side here is I formed the stats of a comparison between Bamford and Watkins, as they were the 2 top strikers when I sorted by XG here, and you can see Bamford in blue there. He simply is just such a good stats machine there. XG, big chances, every single attacking stat is better than Watkins, and that just simply tells me that if you were looking for a budget forward, you just simply have to go with Bamford. I know that this could be quite a contradictory statement because I'm going to be telling you in a little bit that I currently am favoring actually Callum Wilson, just because of those lovely fixtures they have. But if you want a simple striker that's leading the stats, you want to go for a buy the book transfer, you simply just can't ignore Bamford, and that's probably going to be my recommendation if you are looking at a side. They face Chelsea up next, but after that they have some relatively good fixtures, so I still think that he's going to be doing quite a good job. And if you just look at those big chances there, 10 versus the rest of the strikers, just simply sensational. I currently am favoring Callum Wilson though. I know that's quite contradictory, but as I said, it's a little bit more of an out of the box transfer there, just because those next 4 fixtures are looking so good. Now this transfer might not actually happen if the news of this whole Newcastle situation comes to clear towards the end of the week, and then I simply might just be boxed into going for Bamford, who I still think is a good option, but I think currently I would be looking at either Callum Wilson or Bamford if you're going to be looking for a budget forward. So finally, we're going to be talking about captaincy. So the 3 options I've highlighted here. Now, there are other options that you can also look at, such as Chelsea. I think Timo Werner could be a good option. I think against Leeds are quite leaky at the back, so that could be a good option if you want to go for them. But I currently have here Mo Salah / Sadio Mane / Diego Jota now. Jota's in the conversation for that captaincy if you want to go for a Liverpool option. Then we have De Bruyne / Sterling / Mahrez. I mean, imagine if you captain Mahrez last game week, but they have Fulham at home, which I think is the plum fixture to go by. Now, Fulham did go and beat Leicester last night, so maybe they're on some better form than we kind of think, but I think that Man City are going to do a good job against them, and I think there's going to be a couple of goals there for Man City, so that's why I'm looking at a Man City captain as my favorite. Then we come to Bruno Fernandes. Actually been a really consistent option throughout this FPL season, and he faces West Ham away. Now West Ham's attack and defense have shown up a little bit. We saw that with that win over Aston Villa, but their defense for a couple of game weeks now has been quite good, so I don't know if I would be favoring Bruno Fernandes that much, but definitely on his away form he looks like a great shout to go by. So I currently am on a Man City option. I think that's going to change too much because I just favor them so much, and it is kind of the good fixture to go by, and it is a home fixture. Maybe if the Wolves fixture was home for Liverpool, then it might be a different consideration, but I think that Mo Salah is still a good option, but I favor Bruno Fernandes and Kevin De Bruyne / Sterling at this moment. So that's basically going to wrap up the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like it if you did, and subscribe if you're new and have not subscribed yet. I'll be checking you guys later in the week for the team selection. Otherwise, on my Twitter at DayvyFPL. I'm signing off. It's been Dayvy FPL, and I'm out. Cheers. Bye.